This is a short presentation to help you with the FMEA, the Failure Mode Effect Analysis. A better name for this, in my humble opinion, is a risk register because it contains a list of risks. It's what can go wrong. So you're looking at things that can go wrong. For testing, we are looking at things that can go wrong with the system. That's not just the software, but the system. Some of those things may relate to processes, business processes, and associated things that aren't necessarily the software. We're not interested in project or operational risks. They will have FMEAs of their own. They will have risk registers of their own to deal with things like the project manager resigning, like the business changing its mind on the priority, like not having sufficient money, like changes to scope. Operational risks include things like the service level agreement is not being complied with by the vendor, by the gateway to PayPal not being available, by servers not having sufficient capacity or not responding in time. Those operational risks, if it works when you're testing it, that's fine, but operational risks and project risks are outside of the scope. So what we're looking at is what can go wrong with the software. It's done at the beginning. It's done as soon as the project manager gives the test team the task of testing. You need to understand what you've got to test. You need to understand what's going on, and the input from the failure mode effect analysis, the risk register, is input to your project planning. Things change over time, and there will be additional risks as new features and so on are added to a system or taken away from a system. So it will evolve. You will see change, but you need to start as soon as you can. And if there are changes, you need to review the content of the FMEA. The FMEA is a central register of all the risks that you've got. They are everything that you can think that could go wrong with the system. They are a key input to the planning process. One of the things that you'll learn in lecture is that a test project cannot test everything. There are constraints. There are constraints on time, there are constraints on resources, including people and money. So the FMEA helps put the risks in a single location and prioritise them, put them in an importance level. Things that are really important and need to be there, and things that you want to have working but aren't as critical. So you can sequence the risks, and then when you're putting your plan together, you can work on the most important things first. If you run out of time, you can rest assured that you've tested the most important things first, and the other things, whilst they're of value, aren't as important as the things you've tested. So it helps you with the testing project. So, like the static testing, we sit down and read the documents. We also go through business processes and talk to the business about what they're doing, so you get a good understanding of what can go on. And you are asking yourself constantly, what could possibly go wrong? What can go wrong with the system? We've got some examples later, but that is the key to it. And it's the same whether you're looking at documents, whether you're stepping through a business process, or you're talking to users. What can go wrong with the system? The FMEA is a critical document. It is built by a senior tester or a test manager, but the whole team is involved. So even as a junior tester, you will be exposed to an FMEA. You may contribute to it, you may ask questions and be involved in the particular items that are in there, perhaps to write test cases, perhaps if you're part of the planning team, to assess what things can be tested and perhaps how long each of the risks will take to test. So senior test manager, a senior tester, test manager will be the people that do it. So, an example. This is from page 8 of the tutorial requirements document. It says the personal page. To access the personal page, the user is asked to log in or to register. The personal page keeps track of all the items the user is presently trying to buy and has bought in the recent past, and all of the items he/she is trying to sell. From this page, it is also possible to post a new auction. No, fairly straightforward, but what can go wrong? First, the user may be able to get onto the system without a valid username and password. They may be able to log in without a valid username and password. So we need to make sure the login process works. New users need to be able to register. What if the new users can't register on the system? So we're going to point to another risk of users not being able to register. Then we've got user activity. We're going to track all of the items the user is presently trying to buy or has bought in the recent past. So we need to make sure that the activity that they're talking about is saved on the system, and that can be viewed on the system. The fourth one, users can't post new auction items. The last item, they can go to new auction items. So is the link there, and are they able to post the items from that link? So that's fairly straightforward, 4 points from 3 lines and a couple of 4 sentences. So 3 sentences. Anyway, so that's what we've got to do. We go through the document looking for these things, because when you're testing, these are the things that you're going to be testing. So you have a spreadsheet. In a rich environment, you will have an online cloud-based system to register all these things, and it will be managed and maintained there. We're poor university people, so we have a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet has a bunch of information at the top. Most of the things you can leave blank, but put your student number where it says put your student number here, today's date, and put your name here. The risk ID is a unique ID, similar to the thing that we did with static testing. The quality risk category has a list of tabs. It has a list of values in a separate tab on the spreadsheet. I didn't create a drop-down box for this because sometimes you want to have subcategories of user functionality and so on, and it's impossible to list them all. So the key ones are there, but if you find that to make it reasonable, you need to have a risk category of your own, then you can put that in there. But make sure it's a few words and meaningful. Then the failure mode, quality risk / effect. That's the explanation of the risk. Plain language, simple language, something your mother could understand. Severity and priority are next, and if you look at the tab at the bottom, it gives you descriptions of where things fix, and we'll go through some examples of this on the next slide. Recommended action. This is what to do if the problem occurs. Who should be responsible for dealing with it? Not who will run around making a lot of noise, point fingers and that sort of stuff. Who will fix the problem? And then the last thing is the requirements tracing. This is the document, the page and the paragraph where you got the risk. Sometimes people will turn around and say, but we don't want that, we never asked for that. Why are you testing that? This gives you an instant direction to the document, to the paragraph on the page, so that you can answer that question quickly and effectively. So that's the spreadsheet. When you fill out the spreadsheet, and I'm ignoring the header, we've created R for risk, 001, 002, 003, 004, straightforward. The first one is a security risk. Users can access the system without a valid username and password. It's set as a severity level 2 because it's a security risk, and a priority 2. It's set as a priority 2 because it's not really urgent to fix it instantly. We can carry on testing, we can carry on doing things even though this bug is here. It needs to be fixed for release, no argument. It needs to be fixed for release, but it is not something that is critical. Then we've got the risk priority. The risk priority is calculated by the spreadsheet. It's the result of multiplying the severity times the priority. Then we have the recommended action, refer to developers. The developers are the ones that are going to fix this problem. Sometimes you need to go back to the business, sometimes you need to go to a third party, whatever. But in this instance, we're going back to the developers. And then the requirements tracking is the location of the server. So it's got the full URL, including the document name, page and paragraph. So we know exactly where it's come from. The second item, security. Users are unable to register on the system. Now, again, this is a security item. but it's a priority 1 in this situation because you need to be able to register users to test. If you can't register new users, you can't test all the functions. So it's more important to fix that sooner. The impact on the business for new users not being able to get on there is higher. So it comes in as a 1. The other things remain the same. Data quality for the user's items not being built. These are things that are not being saved. This is data that's not being saved. So again, a 2 and a 1. A 1 because if you can't save the data, then you can't carry on doing other tests. You can't reference back and track back to do other functionality related to things that were supposed to have been saved. And the last one, users cannot post a new auction item, is system functionality. So the system is not functioning as it should. It's a severity 2, priority 1. You can figure out why, and the recommended action, if it's not working, the only people who can fix it are the developers, and your reference to it. So they're 4 items out of a small area. That's what it should look like. So, to review, the testing FMEA is a register of software and system risks, not operational risks, not project risks, software and system risks. That's the way the software works, functional, non-functional requirements, how it relates back to business processes, all of those things, but not operational risks. It is used in the planning process because when we've got all the risks in one place, we can prioritise them. The risks that are in there, the descriptions of the risks, will form the basis of test cases. We cover test cases later in the subject, but a test case is a set of processes that you are going to go through and test, and you cover each one. They're the building blocks to a test plan. The FMEA starts as soon as possible in the software development lifecycle, and it continues through the project. Things will change, things will happen in the project. Some things that were important will disappear because they've been solved. Some things may be expanded from a single item into multiple items because of changes in importance to those particular things in the system. The FMEA is built by the test team using documents, business processes, and their test experience, the things that you bring as a tester to the process. So you're adding and you're finding things that could possibly go wrong with the system. Each risk is assessed on its severity and priority, and in the spreadsheet there are clear descriptions of what each of those levels mean, and by allocating the severity and priority, we're able to keep things in the right sequence. More important things at the top, cosmetic stuff down the bottom. It doesn't matter if the colour is wrong on a screen or if a logo is slightly in the wrong place or something. Those things are not a huge issue. But if you can't register on the system, if it doesn't save your data on the system, those things are important and need to be fixed far sooner than the things at the end. So that's the summary. You've got several examples from the tutorial document, and you've seen how the spreadsheet can work. All you need to do is the same sort of thing for your FMEA.